This is TWiT.
Google's an interesting story because Google clearly understands that and has worked very hard to stay a nimble, youthful company as they get larger. How do they do that?
Yeah, it's rare. So you have Larry Page and Sergey Brin, founders who are still at the company, but they have delegated authority to Sundar Pichai to run Google and to Diane Green to run Google Cloud. And they have attracted these brilliant people to manage these different businesses under the Google umbrella or Alphabet umbrella today. And that's pretty rare. You don't see that happen very often.
Did Larry and before him Eric Schmidt see that as the challenge at Google, is to find a structure that avoided the innovator's dilemma, that kept Google innovating and moving forward?
They were very aware of the innovator's dilemma.
Yeah.
And just for your audience, The Innovator's Dilemma, that was a book written by Clayton Christensen from Harvard Business School. And it's basically a book about how dominant companies in any industry eventually get disrupted by a tiny little startup doing something that is inferior and smaller and, not of any consequence. But the innovator's dilemma is, do I switch gears and go to this new technology that's not as good, or do I double down on my existing business and go further up the stack for bigger customers? That's the dilemma. And startups, Clayton Christensen invented this term, innovator's dilemma, to describe how the small startup innovators often overtake these dominant companies, and it's happened over and over again. So Google was very aware of that and has taken steps to avoid the innovator's dilemma and to stay a nimble company, even with 80,000 employees.
It's clear when you go there or you talk to people that you get that feeling that that's really their goal. So I'm glad to get that confirmation that that was, and the way it's structured is interesting because you have to. Everything is a startup at Google. Every idea, every product, every business is a startup, and you have to fight as you would if you were running your own little company. It's very interesting.
It's a good thing, and it's in contradiction to the way that Microsoft would do things. So Microsoft would do things in a very hierarchical way, where the products had to line up with what Microsoft does. At Google, it's completely different, where everything is a startup, and they work on their own. Android is an example. So Google was a search company at the time, had nothing to do with mobile phones or smartphones, but they had a vision and they knew that that was going to be the future of computing. So they bought Android and brought in Rich Miner and Andy, who were the founders of Android, and they went on to do brilliant things and make Android the most successful smartphone in the world. That would be very difficult to happen at Microsoft. In fact, it didn't happen.
No, because you can't cannibalize Windows. You can't hurt the Office business. The product managers over there, the directors of those businesses would shut you down.
Right, and that is in fact the definition of the innovator's dilemma.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even if it's within the company.
Sure. Yeah. You might remember Microsoft tried to do, they had Windows CE. That was their answer to smartphones. Windows CE, which was a smaller, more compact version of Windows to work on a mobile phone. That was, that's how Microsoft thought, where Google went entirely different direction and said, no, let's do an open source operating system that can be used anywhere on any platform, and they don't have to pay us a big royalty, or they don't have to bundle Office with it. It's a completely different thing. So that's a perfect example of the innovator's dilemma.